You take Batman the Animated Series and Batman Caped Crusader, I've made comparisons, you've made comparisons, but this episode, I really believe, sets the tone of how different they really are.
Okay, what else do we know?
The Night of the Hunters. This episode is pretty unique, and I think that it really sort of shifts the tone, and I think in some ways, they maybe should have started with this episode. This really, for me, watching this, was the best interpretation of this is what the show is and should be, and how it's different from the original series and different from any other Batman interpretation that we've seen, in animation at least.
Well, I say this Batman's got a lot of moxie.
This one's kind of exciting for me. It opens up with these TV reports, getting people's take on Batman. And again, that's a very old throwback style of getting a lot of exposition of what do people think? What do we think of Batman? And again, this is where this really starts dividing out. Is this episode is very much done through the perspective of everybody else and how they see Batman and who they think he is and what he could be.
We think he might be a vampire.
It's tough to do that kind of story because we as an audience know so much about Batman, and we bring a lot into the story. We bring a lot into when we watch the stories of our own interpretation of Batman and who he is. But this show, this episode in particular, I think does really well with going, what if you didn't know anything about Batman? What would you think of him? Whether you were a citizen or you were the police, what would it be? And this sets it up really well by having these sort of TV reports starting off.
The whole city's gone to hell in a handbasket.
But again, the hook's not real strong for the mayor to kind of threaten Gordon and be like, you better not screw this up. I'm not going to say anything more about the hooks because I feel like this is becoming a recurring theme. The hooks are just not that strong. I don't know if they're trying to be. It doesn't have that like, what's the mystery? What's going to happen? Oh my gosh, Batman's in peril. It just doesn't have that. So I don't know, maybe that's not the direction they're going with these. So the police have this plan to try to capture Batman, to get him, bring him down. And again, it establishes the relationship of like, this isn't Gordon's friends with Batman world. This is, we don't know who this menace is. And he sort of just appeared on the scene. And we didn't really know that in the first couple episodes. Certainly there was some mystery around Batman. But this really sort of paints the picture of like, we don't know who Batman is as citizens, as the city officials.
He's kind of a shy boy, isn't he?
And I do want to say, before I get too far into this review will contain spoilers. If you have not watched this episode, pause it here, go watch the episode, come back and get the full review. So this is your fair warning. Don't tell me I didn't warn you. Here it is, spoilers going forward. But yeah, the police come up with this plan. They put Montoya in charge of the task force to bring down the Batman. And it's sort of a weak plan to just go, oh, let's set up some crimes and the Batman will swoop in and we'll capture him. And I think that just in the nature of that not being a good plan, it heightens this perception of Batman because they really underestimate him. And they really don't understand how intelligent he is and that he's not going to fall for this kind of run-of-the-mill trick. And that, like, yeah, there's crime all over the city. I mean, we've talked about this before, but Gotham has a real crime problem. And so these couple of, like, muggings and stuff like that, it's a chance. I mean, like, is he going to see it? I don't know.
I still don't see a plan here, Montoya.
And also, as they're doing the crimes, that we see Batman and we just see shadows. We just see this kind of outline of him. And that's neat. And that's sort of like the first times that we see him in this episode are like these just little glimpses in the shadows and in the darkness. I like that. That's how we should see Batman.
So this one dresses up like Dracula, so what?
And it really sets up this interesting plot that has certainly been a B story or a backstory to Batman of like, oh, the cops are trying to stop him. He's trying to help them, but he's doing it on his own, vigilante and all that. This sort of, hits the ground running and tells this story of like, hey, the police have an order. They're going to stop him. They need to put together a special task force to bring him down. And I think that it's very smartly done. We as an audience don't see Batman much, and he really doesn't drive the story in this episode that much. It's really the police. It's really this task force that is propelling the story forward. And in some ways, I think this maybe should have been the first episode. And maybe it was the first one they produced, I don't know. But like the order of this, I think would have helped me at least have a different perception of what this series is. And again, this is a challenge because we know so much about Batman. And now that I'm saying that, I'm going, maybe it was deliberately done this way, that we saw some earlier episodes with Batman that go, oh, this is, okay, he's a different Batman, different Bruce Wayne than what we've seen in other iterations. And now we're going, oh, okay, I don't know what he's going to do. He is a different Batman than what I'm used to. So maybe this is going to go different. So maybe it was right that they put it here. But I do think that this would have helped answer a lot of questions if we would have had this at the front.
Still a criminal, and we're gonna take him down.
I have a small nitpicky complaint about the character designs here. And correct me if I'm wrong, or tell me if you don't agree with me, but seeing Detective Montoya and Dr. Quinzel next to each other, they're almost the same design. I mean, they're wearing like the same outfit. They have like the purple jacket and skirt and their hair back, dark hair. Dr. Quinzel has glasses, but overall, like the body types and design and everything is very similar. Even if they would have just changed their outfit, I feel like would have separated them a little bit more. I don't know if that becomes a plot point later, but Bruce Timm, great character designer, great design and look of the show. But that one I didn't catch until they were right next to each other, and I'm going, they're having dialogue with each other. I'm like, wait, who am I talking to? Maybe I'm just being nitpicky. Let me know in the comments if you agree, but I thought that was odd. Seems like an oversight.
Barb introduced us at our Christmas party, and we kept in touch.
This episode also answers a request that I had. Not that they did that for me, because they all came out at the same time, but we get to see more Bullock and Flass, his partner, who seemed to be very corrupt in this episode, which Bullock has always been borderline, and I think that that's one of the big changes that they made from the animated series. I'm sure that was not approved of by the network to make cops look bad. That's a weird idea to grasp as a kid, to go, oh, cops are here to help and protect you and serve you, but some of them are corrupt.
Well, I say this will not stand.
I get why that wasn't in the animated series, but you can definitely see those elements of like, I think this is the direction they wanted to go with Bullock. And in a lot of ways in this episode, I think Flass is even more so a corrupt cop, and he's sort of pulling Bullock along in a lot of ways. But I like this version of Bullock, and I had, seeing hints of him leading up to this episode, I wanted to see where they were going to go, and this is cool. I'm excited to see this version of Bullock, and it creates a different dynamic and a more polarizing dynamic between good cop Gordon and bad cop Bullock. I like that. It's a neat interpretation.
Sorry, Bullock. You're not getting rewarded for that.
And that's one of the big things that really kind of erases the board for, this is the show we're telling. Don't compare it with Batman the Animated Series, because we're doing different things. We're going a different direction, and Bullock is kind of the cornerstone of that. This story in the old animated series would have been told through Batman's perspective. It wouldn't have had the weight of like, wait, is he good? Is he bad? What's he doing? And, oh, but Bullock doesn't seem good. This is where they really kind of clear the slate and go, this is the show we're telling. So buckle up and get ready for the ride.
Such an obvious political stunt.
And speaking of Bullock, John DiMaggio is a great Bullock. He definitely has elements of the original Bullock, but kind of puts his own spin. I hear hints of Bender in there, which is very appropriate for this character. I would say he's probably one of the most recognizable voices of the main cast. He's a great Bullock, and I think that was really great casting that just pulls a little flavor from the original, but goes his own direction. I like that.
You need a real scary rep if you want to survive in there.
And so they come up with this plan to break out a supervillain, or a freak, as they call him.
You need a weirdo.
And they get Firebug. Now, I got confused here because I knew Firefly, the character, and we've seen him in some other episodes in that. They call him Firefly, and then he corrects him, says Firebug.
Let's go, Firefly.
Actually, it's Firebug.
That's weird. Why didn't they just make him Firefly? And then I had to look it up. Firebug is a real character. He came out in the 70s, and there was actually a team up between Firebug and Firefly. So I don't know if that was like an inside joke of like, Why do they have two fire-related villains? I think the difference is Firefly flies and Firebug just likes fire, I guess. But they're very similar. I don't know.
He's more dangerous than he looks.
He was a great character to tell this story. Sort of not too bright, but they kind of hint enough to release him and him go on his own, which, by the way, that sequence with him riding in the car with Bullock and Flass is really pretty cool. That was a fun sequence to go, oh yeah, the trunk's unlocked, and then sending him, releasing him to do what he does. Maybe that's the reason why Firebug's better than Firefly, is like, he didn't need a motive, he just needed to have fuel and a flame and go, yeah, I'm gonna burn some stuff up. So he was a very appropriate character for this type of story, and I enjoyed it, that was fun.
He isn't completely dense after all.
And on that, again, I've been very hard on the animation of this series, but the fire animation and the sequence of that, burning up the buildings, really looks good. I mean, that's one of the advantages of using computers for some of the animation, is that doing flames in computers looks great. So that's a point in their favor. And generally, like I said in the last episode, is like, I think the action sequences work well. It's the dialogue that doesn't work so good.
Damn it.
And the big shocker in this episode is when Bullock and Flass confront Firebug. He's like, oh, I'm out of fuel, I give up. They're worried about him blowing their cover. And so their solution is to shoot him.
Well, holy crap.
He falls out of a window. I mean, like, that was a shock. And it sort of like took me back for a moment and went, oh, right, this isn't your, the 90s Batman the Animated Series. That never would have happened in the old series. I said in the last episode that, I don't know if this is as dark as it could be. That's dark. That is a moment that really went, oh, right, we're watching a different show. And again, I think that using Firebug for that, I think that was great, because this wasn't his story. This was about the cops trying to stop Batman, so he was just sort of a side character to that. Even that in itself makes this different. That alone, I think, is what should reframe your mind and go, there's no point in comparing these two, because this episode just totally veered the two off and went, we're in a different universe here.
Bingo. Huh?
And this also starts to build that relationship with Gordon. We don't fully see Gordon go, okay, we're on the same side, but they work together to get the kids out of the building. Again, great dynamic of the good cop Gordon saving kids, Bullock and Flass just looking out for themselves. But we start to build that relationship, and I'm excited to see where that goes. So I feel like finally this show, I said it in the last episode, but this one really starts moving the show forward. And this, I think, is my favorite episode I've seen so far. And I've still got half the series left to go. So I'm excited to see where they take these characters, where they take the storylines here. This is feeling good. I like it. I like where it's going. We got to see a glimpse here of Firebug, which again, I was sort of thrown off. I was expecting it to be Firefly, which we saw him in the New Adventures of Batman. So if you want to see my review of Torch Song, click the link on your screen, and I will see you in the next episode.